Hi everyone. In this presentation, we will discuss a somewhat popular topic at the moment, personal distance or proximity. We were particularly interested how gender and attractiveness, expressed only through the character's motion, affects the user's proximity response in virtual reality. This research was conducted in collaboration with the Research Institute INRIA, France, and Trinity College Dublin, Ireland. Here presenting is Katja Zibrek. I'm going to disappear for a while. You're only going to hear my voice. This is just to leave some extra space for other pictures. Proximity is a well-known social behavior measure where personal distances between people and interaction are investigated. Usually, the more familiar the people are with each other, the closer the personal distance between them. If these invisible barriers are breached, however, we get uncomfortable and move away. Gender of the people also plays a role in their proximity behavior. Social studies and real-life interactions show that females tend to leave more personal space between other people than males. Additionally, if females are approached by males, the distances will be kept even further away than if approached by another female. The combinations of male and female dyads were the subject of many studies with inconsistent findings. Some state, for example, that males keep even further distances between each other than females to males. These observed proximity patterns, according to gender, are believed to have cultural and evolutionary origin. Another interesting observation was that if the person approaching is attractive, regardless of gender, people will allow him or her to come closer into their personal space without the feeling of discomfort. These effects of gender were confirmed in virtual reality, where they found gender of the agent as well as the participant an important predictor of the proximity behavior. However, it's not clear if gender really is the factor influencing proximity, since previous research found that height is an important factor of proximity, and males tend to be taller on average. There are also other possible reasons why male appearance could influence personal space. Maybe the facial expression or the body shape, as well as the clothes that the person is wearing. But how do we control for these unwanted effects of appearance? Previous studies using point light displays found that gender can be successfully recognized from motion only. This was used in our study, where we assessed the influence of gender coming only from motion cues. To do so, we applied motion-captured motion from female and male actors on an androgynous character and evaluated if gender was sufficiently recognized. We then asked the question if proximity is affected by participants as well as characters' gender. This novel approach would show us if the proximity is actually affected by gender and not other visual characteristic, which is related to gender. However, there is another information coming from motion and could affect our proximity results. This is attractiveness. Previous studies have shown that walking motions can be perceived as more or less attractive, regardless of the gender of the walker. As mentioned before, social behavior studies found that we allow attractive people to come closer into our personal space than less attractive people. We therefore included the ratings of attractiveness into our analysis to better understand the effect of motion on proximity. Proximity is a well-established behavioral measure in interactive virtual reality. People in virtual reality show similar proximity behavior as they do in real-life social situations. There are different ways to measure proximity in virtual reality, but they could roughly be divided into passive and active approaches. Active approach is when the user is prompted to approach a character, either to complete a task, or the character is an obstacle on the way to complete a task, and the user has to avoid the character. In this case, the proximity measure is the minimum approaching or avoiding distance between the character and the user. Passive approach is when the user is static and the character moves towards them. The user has to stop the approaching character when they start feeling uncomfortable, and the distance between them and the character is recorded. For our experiment design, we will follow the latter, passive approach. For our experiment design, we used motion capture data of 10 male and 10 female walking motions and applied them to an androgynous wooden mannequin model in an environment built in Unreal Engine 4. We recruited 20 participants, 10 males and 10 females, and by using Vive, we embodied them in a virtual reality environment. The embodiment was a simple IK skeleton driven by the Vive controllers, and the body they saw was exactly the same as the observed character, the wooden mannequin. Participant was presented with 3 tasks. In the first task, we recorded proximity. In the second, we were interested how well the gender was recognized. And for the last, we presented the attractiveness rating scale. In the first task, participants were asked to indicate by pulling the trigger precisely at the time when the distance between them and the virtual character made them feel uncomfortable. They saw a randomized order of male and female walks with 3 repetitions for each motion. In the gender recognition task, participants needed to indicate if the motion they saw is either male or female by pressing the left trigger and the right trigger. The last task was attractiveness ratings, where participants were deciding on a scale from 1 to 7 how attractive they found the motion of the character. And here are some examples of ratings. Some motions were poorly recognized for gender, and some received high ratings. Also, some motions were more attractive than others. The statistical analysis showed that, as expected, females indicated earlier than males when the distance between them and the character was uncomfortable. On average, females chose 164 centimeters as the critical distance and males around 92 centimeters. The difference in proximity between female and male participants was significant. However, unexpectedly, we found no evidence that the gender of the approaching character affected proximity. This is not aligned with previous reports on gender effects in virtual reality or in real life. Gender was overall well recognized, so poor recognition did not affect our data. Some motions were more ambiguous. Therefore, by using the results of motions with a high recognition rate, above 75%, we reanalyzed the proximity data. This made no difference to our proximity results. We did in fact find that the proximity is affected by attractiveness of motion. This was done by grouping the motions in 3 categories according to attraction ratings from the participants: high, low, and medium. The proximity results were re-investigated, and we found a confirmation for our predictions. Motions which were rated low in attractiveness had the furthest proximity distance compared to the medium and highly attractive motions. The gender of the motion did not affect the viewer's proximity in our study. This begs the question, were previous studies more influenced by other visual cues and not gender per se? Or perhaps motion is just not a strong indicator of proximity. Female participants chose further proximity distances to virtual characters than males. This is in line with previous studies. Attractive motions affected the viewer's proximity. This is a novel result, since the association between the attractiveness of motion and proximity hasn't been shown before. However, we were only investigating gender and attractiveness of motion. Perhaps other information such as dominance and general amount of movement contribute to proximity as well. In virtual interactions, gender and attractiveness of the characters will both affect personal distance in virtual space. The fact that the motion is a strong cue can indicate that some of these information will hold true even when characters do not exhibit obvious gender features in their appearance, such as unrealistic creatures. The result of the study could be useful for crowd simulations or designing virtual interaction scenarios to improve engagement and social presence. In our future work, we will apply the motion on male and female models to investigate whether the addition of appearance would result in differences in proximity per agent gender, which we did not record in the previous experiment. Thank you for your attention. And remember, the recommended personal distance right now is 1 meter.